Hello, this is Catherine from Accelerated Reader. Today I will be reading chapters 7 and 8 from Two Very Rare Bears by S.P. Bullock and G.S. Before I begin reading, I would like to give a big thanks to the author for sending me this book to read on my channel. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 7. Silence descended over the store. Harry took George's paw. "I think we can climb out now." So carefully they clambered over the other bears, squeezed through the gap in the side of the pallet, and jumped down onto the storeroom floor, heading towards the open door, through which Neil had exited earlier. Their little feet scurried along until they were stopped in their tracks by the most magical sight. The toy shop floor was twinkling with lights, and before them stood a huge 20-foot Christmas tree, adorned with brightly colored baubles, reindeers, elves, and a large Santa perched on a suspended sleigh. There were parcels wrapped in shiny paper, tied with pretty bows. Harry and George couldn't believe their eyes. "Wow, this must be our new home," said Harry. And although George didn't understand what Harry had said, he nodded in agreement, as he was obviously feeling the same way. The two little bears made themselves at home. They ran around excitedly, exploring their new surroundings. It was joyous. They climbed the Christmas tree and spent the night in the magical world of Churchill's Christmas department until they were exhausted. Then they crawled back into the pallet and fell into a deep sleep amongst the other little bears, for the first time feeling safe. The night slipped by. Their sleep was suddenly interrupted by bright lights and Winifred's shrill voice. It was 8 a.m. "Come on, Neil. We have a busy day ahead. Chop, chop, no time to waste." Winifred's date must have gone well, though Winifred seemed in a good mood. The containers were now being opened, and the bears were being lifted out. Harry grabbed George's paw, hoping to stay close. The top container, full of bears, was now empty. Around 300 had been transferred into large wicker baskets by Neil and his helper, Pat. Harry and George's container was next to be opened. "Here we go," thought Harry. "We're being taken to our new home." Neil's left hand wrapped around George's snout, and his right grabbed Harry's paw. They were then tossed into another large basket and carried onto the shop floor. Winifred stood at the end of the room, clipboard in hand, pointing and ordering Neil and Pat's baskets of bears to different areas. Harry and George's basket was to be placed under the largest Christmas tree, the one they had been climbing the evening before. "Phew," thought Harry. "I can't believe this is going to be our new home, this beautiful tree." The bears at last began to feel safe and happy. As the wicker basket was placed under the tree, Harry and George maneuvered themselves to the top of the pile, being very careful as to not attract any attention. What a wonderful sight it was, this magical Christmas extravaganza, and Harry and George felt quite proud to be part of Churchill's magnificent winter display. But suddenly, Winifred walked up to Harry and George's wicker basket, armed with her clipboard, and announced, 10 doggy bears are needed for Christmas hampers immediately." And before poor Harry or George had time to even wonder what a Christmas hamper was, Winifred's long bony fingers came towards them and grabbed Harry by the snout. Panicking, he stretched out to reach George's paw, but he wasn't quick enough, and just like that, they were separated. George looked up and with a lump in his throat, had a last fleeting glance of Harry's little legs. They were now alone and wondering what on earth a Christmas hamper could be. Harry's head was spinning as he was marched across the shop floor and out of the toy department with 9 other bears. Although he was desperate to break free, he daren't move for fear of being caught. Winifred's grip was tight around the handle of her basket as she hurried down to the lower floor past a sign that read, "Food Hall." All the staff tried to look busy as they caught sight of Winifred parading across the floor, swinging her bear-laden basket. What Harry didn't know was, at this time of year, Churchills were famous for sending out their award-winning Christmas hampers, which were filled with a collection of their finest produce of chutneys, jams, delicious cheeses, crackers, cured meats, wines, and chocolates. But one thing they had always included was a world-famous Churchill's doggy bear. Upstairs in the toy department, George was fretting furiously, but also daren't move a muscle for fear of being caught. Alone without Harry, he felt lost. The shop floor was now filling with customers and excited children. Little hands were grabbing toys left, right, and center. George instinctively knew he must hide. He carefully burrowed his way to the bottom of the basket, under the other few hundred bears, so as not to be taken. He knew his only chance of being reunited with Harry was to try and stay hidden until Harry somehow could make his way back to the toy department. Chapter 8. Downstairs, Winifred and her basket of bears had arrived in the packing department. Churchill's hamper packers were an elderly couple, Hilary and Jeff, who had worked in the store for almost 50 years. They met in Churchill's, fell in love, and had been inseparable ever since. Over the years, they had a big, happy family, but Hilary had always returned to working at the store part-time. And now their grandson, Max, supplied Churchill's with his award-winning chocolate, which he had started making in his mother's kitchen, much to the family's amusement. How they had laughed when he had used the money he had saved to buy a chocolate-making machine from eBay. "You can't make chocolate," they had cried. But Max refused to listen and spent hours in his mother's kitchen with bags of imported cocoa beans until he made the perfect bar. A few years later, his chocolate had won worldwide awards, and he had opened his own small chocolate factory. And now Hilary and Jeff proudly packed Max's perfect chocolate into Churchill's beautiful Christmas hampers. Harry was plucked from Winifred's basket, and Hilary carefully tied a smart red and golden ribbon around his neck. Then she gently placed him upon a bed of soft red tissue paper. He lay motionless, nestled between Max's chocolate and a large jar of Churchill's apple chutney. "Whatever's happening," thought Harry, "how will I find George again?" But he felt sure he could escape later on when everyone left, and so until then he just had to remain calm. Then an envelope was placed into the basket. It was sprinkled with tiny gold stars which stuck in Harry's fur. The lid was closed and the basket was lifted onto a small trolley along with all the other Christmas hampers. From inside the basket, Harry heard Hilary say, "These hampers are ready for delivery." "Delivery where?" thought Harry. "Delivery to another department? I need to find George." Harry had remained still all the time he had been in the packing department, but now he was using his little paws to bang on the wicker lid to try and get out. He knew if he didn't do something, he would never see George again. "Morning, Hilary." Harry peered through the basket to see Churchill's warehouse manager, Peter, checking the paperwork. "Right," said Peter. "Everything seems to be in order. Let's get all these hampers loaded and on their way." On their way? Harry thought. On their way where? The little Churchill's van was packed to the ceiling with Christmas hampers. Suddenly, Harry heard the van's engine spring into life. "Oh no! How will I ever find George?" thought Harry. And with that, the little red Churchill's van set off on its Christmas hamper delivery. Back in the toy department, under a mound of identical doggy bears, George was panicking too. His brother had been gone a while now, and he had no idea where. All he could do was remain here until Harry came back. What George didn't know was that Harry was now on England's M1 motorway hamper, no 42 out of 110, ticketed to an address: the Shuttleworths, Pendle Farm, Poppy Lane, Morden, Yorkshire, BD17 8SG. Whoever the Shuttleworths at Pendle Farm were, they were about to receive their Christmas hamper with a very rare bear indeed. Stay tuned for Chapter 9. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book.